like to welcome you to the teaching series, Healthy Habits of the Christian Life. Healthy Habits of the Christian Life. Dr. Kenneth Hammonds, Dr. Oscar Owens, and myself will join together to introduce you to practices that will help you to become a fully developed disciple of Jesus Christ. There's a website that I want to point out. The website is 3BibleTeachers.com. 3BibleTeachers.com. And on that site, we will have materials related to the class. We will have different posts, videos, homework assignments, and discussions. If you happen to be on my personal site, which is wilfredgraves.org, there will also be links to the class located there as well. Please join the blog on the site to follow the class. It will be very beneficial. Now, two disciplines that I would like to focus on in this video are the discipline of solitude and the discipline of silence. Solitude is the state of being alone. It is being isolated from noise and distraction. And the discipline of silence is the voluntary removal of noise from our surroundings. Now, first, let's talk about solitude. Now, of course, we can't be alone all the time. Human beings need healthy human interaction. We need people to whom we are accountable. But if we're going to develop a intimate relationship with God, a close personal fellowship with God, then that's going to require some alone time. Jesus Christ often sought times in which he could be alone with God. On the PowerPoint slide, you see that I've listed 3 verses, Matthew 14:23, Mark 1:35, and Luke 5:16. These all describe Jesus' practice of going to a solitary place. Matthew 14:23 reads, "And when he had sent the multitudes away, he went up on the mountain by himself to pray. Now when evening came, he was alone there." Mark 1:35 reads, "Now in the morning, having risen a long while before daylight, he went out and departed to a solitary place, and there he prayed." Luke 5:16. "So he himself often withdrew into the wilderness and prayed." So sometimes we need alone time with God. Secondly, when we are in a solitary place, sometimes our posture before the Lord is one of silence. Silence helps us to come before the Lord in reverence. We can reverence God the more when we're not making a lot of noise. These are holy moments. These are moments in which we can appreciate the Lord without using words. Let me read Habakkuk 2:20. There the writer says, "But the Lord is in his holy temple. Let all the earth keep silence," or be silent before him. And there are other verses that are also listed on your slide. Thirdly, solitude and silence enable us to draw upon the strength of the Lord. Isaiah 30:15 says, "In returning and rest you shall be saved. In quietness and confidence shall be your strength." Fourthly and finally, solitude and silence enable us to hear God more clearly. Elijah discovered God's still, small voice as he quieted himself before the Lord in a solitary place. If you would, let me read 1 Kings 19:11 through 13. It says, "Then he said, Go out and stand on the mountain before the Lord. And behold, the Lord passed by, and a great and strong wind tore into the mountains and broke the rocks in pieces before the Lord. But the Lord was not in the wind, and after the wind, an earthquake. But the Lord was not in the earthquake, and after the earthquake, a fire. But the Lord was not in the fire, and after the fire, a still small voice." So it was when Elijah heard it that he wrapped his face in his mantle and went out and stood in the entrance of the cave. Suddenly a voice came to him and said, "What are you doing here, Elijah?" So there's a lot to unpack in those verses, but I'll just say this. God is not always at work in spectacular and dramatic ways. Sometimes we need to simply calm ourselves down and quiet ourselves in order to hear the still small voice, which contains God's direction. Sometimes if we want to tap into God's presence and his peace and his power, we just simply need to quiet ourselves before him. As I conclude this video, I would like for you to think about 3 important questions. The first is this: why is it that we often fill our lives with so much noise? Why can't we just be quiet? Why can't we be still? The second question is, why do we often surround ourselves with throngs of people? Why is it so hard for us to be in a solitary place? And thirdly, how have you been challenged through this teaching to pursue silence in a solitary place? What are the benefits of doing so? How will that help you spiritually? Now, for homework, I just want to encourage you with a simple assignment. I encourage you to take 30 minutes this week, find a solitary place, and just come before the Lord in silence. Now, I'm not saying that you can't say anything to the Lord, but I'm just encouraging you to minimize the amount of speaking that you do and simply reflect on the Lord, reflect on his goodness. If you want, you can bring a journal or a pen and a pad of paper to kind of jot down anything that God reveals to you, but just use that time to be with the Lord and see what happens on the inside of you. I guarantee you that you will discern a greater sense of peace and calm. You may even receive answers to many of the prayers that you have placed before the Lord for direction. Many times his direction comes in those quiet moments in a solitary place. So God bless you. I know that God has some wonderful things in store for you, and I look forward to hear about your experiences. I'm Wilfred Graves. I'll see you next time.